But and speaking of COVID-related issues, the hit piece of all hit pieces came out this week, went global around the world. An Associated Press reporter spent months coming up with this hit piece because of the success of Robert Kennedy's book about Anthony Fauci, about the entire COVID madness. Extraordinarily well cited, documented, and supported. You can get it digitally for like $2.99. Bobby Kennedy's donating all of the profits from the book to fighting vaccine mandates and these other related issues. None of this is going into his pocket, as the AP reporter had to begrudgingly admit. But in the piece, AP made about at least 5 obvious lies about basic facts concerning Bobby Kennedy and Children's Health Defense, and subjected themselves to a potentially monster libel suit for this smear campaign. They probably thought they could get away with it because of what Instagram and other people had done before, because Kennedy had been reluctant to bring suit on these cases, for a range of reasons. A lot of people don't like, if you're a public figure, it's often a waste of time to try to get involved in the courts. But this was such egregious lies. And to give just one illustration, the AP report said that Children's Health Defense and Bobby Kennedy had falsely stated that the biologic licensed, fully approved COVID vaccine was not available in the United States back in August. It's still not available in the United States. That was not only was that not a lie, that was the absolute truth that courts have repeatedly confirmed. We brought suit related to it, and the court admitted it was true. There is no biologic licensed, FDA approved COVID-19 vaccine available in the United States, as Pfizer itself has repeatedly stated. There is just the emergency use authorized ones available. And they sat there and lied, and this story went around the world. They libeled Bobby Kennedy and Children's Health Defense across the entire globe. And I think that they may find themselves mistaken in assuming there will be no blowback. The reporter can be sued individually. She lives in Rhode Island. She might want to be checking their insurance policies at the moment. And the Associated Press can be sued. And it's very uniquely strong legal claims because they couldn't help themselves. They couldn't smear by, the smart ones smear by innuendo, by carefully structured statements that they can label, opinion down the road. These made a certain specific factual claims repeatedly that are obviously and clearly false, just because they can't handle Bobby Kennedy being a leader against vaccine mandates. It drives them nuts that the famous son, the famous scion of the most famous pro-civil liberties political family in American history, is saying vaccine mandates are a threat to American democracy and democracy around the world.
And I want everyone out there to appreciate that Robert is writing poetry in real time. The way he framed that discussion links us perfectly into the next discussion, which is framing what is a matter of fact as a matter of opinion, or a matter of opinion as a matter of fact, which brings us into the FakeBook Facebook fact-checking lawsuit, which was, Robert, I love it. And I saw it happening in real time. John Stossel, the reporter, ABC, I think people started hating him when he went on Fox News. Maybe they hated him before. Someone in our locals community said that they didn't like Stossel because back in the 80s or the 90s, he called pro wrestling fake, and then a wrestler slapped him on the face and said, "Is that fake?" And then he sued them for assault. And I said, locals community, what you just described, it sounds like assault to me. And if someone did that to me, I might, I don't blame him, but I will also forgive him for any indiscretions that are 30 years old. But Stossel sued Facebook because they, using their third-party fact checkers. I'm not even sure if I did that on purpose anymore. They called 2 of his stories factually incorrect, misleading, or missing context. They had to do with the forest fires in California. They said it was factually incorrect, missing context, yada, yada, labeled it. He sued them for defamation, including their third-party fact checker. Facebook filed, it was a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim, and under anti-SLAPP legislation in whatever state it was. California. And they said, our fact checkers, in addition to all the other arguments, they are when they say missing context or fact check fault, whatever, it's protected opinion and therefore cannot be defamatory. And Robert, not that I'm ahead of the curve. I'm only ahead of the curve because I'm following your taillights. You said we discussed this a while back. It's like, okay, are fact checks matter of fact, or are they just actually statements of opinion and an argument on the internet, which itself wouldn't be a problem, except they use them to sanction, penalize, deplatform, and sometimes even worse, by labeling them as fact check false. So they fact check Stossel. They say false, missing context, yada, yada. By the way, here, redirect traffic to our websites, redirect traffic to our platforms so we can make money off your work while we lie about you. And Facebook says it's protected opinion. So there's the law and there's the business. So your opinion in law, in their chances of success, and the consequences in business of what they've just done and business model. Go.
So this goes back to our Candace Owens case, where a Delaware trial court bought that excuse and said that labeling something hoax has no factual inference whatsoever, that labeling something misinformation has no factual inference whatsoever, that calling something a fact check doesn't actually concern any facts, and isn't itself a fact. So they're borrowing from that defense that was successful for them against Candace Owens in Delaware, borrowing it now for the Ninth Circuit. Presumably, they're also going to apply it in another case that's coming, because Facebook, same group of people, lied about the British Medical Journal, which reported on my whistleblower, who blew the whistle on how the clinical trials with Pfizer were littered with serious scientific and ethical problems in the production of data, such that the data is utterly unreliable in terms of the safety and efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccine, as she documented in detail. And so so presumably they're going to make the same defense in that case, because that case is coming. So the argument is that they are at least admitting now more formally, fully, and officially in court. And I've often said this is one of the utilities of filing suit. Make them admit that what they're doing isn't fact-checking at all. What they're doing isn't a fact at all. This is their own opinion about somebody else's opinion. And that has been probably functionally true about fact-checking for a while, that all it really is their biased opinions about matters. But the problem is that's not how it's presented. And clearly people who read fact checks think that it's a factual claim. They don't think it's of opinion. It doesn't say opinion.
This is the thing, is like, because the fact checks used to be, he said it would happen in 1945. No, it happened in 1942. But then the fact checks became these hyper contextualized. Oh, well, he said this, but it was, he meant this. They became politicized, where they became not fact-checking facts, like how many people died in a plane crash, how many people, whatever. It became what was meant by, and they became effectively arguments. Nothing wrong with that, but they're not facts, and they are not fact checks. They are arguments, rebuttals, or counter arguments. And it's not just that they call them fact checks when they're not. It's that they base policy, they base sanctions, they base deplatforming on adhering to the fact checks. If you put out a false fact check, you get deplatformed, demonetized, redirected. And so it became policy. It became weaponized, then it became policy, and I'm not sure which one happened first. But yeah, so they said it publicly now, but what are going to be the legal consequences in terms of like whether or not a judge is going to say, oh, protected opinion, so therefore can't be defamatory? I don't see any judge buying it. We need to get to the anti-slap stuff afterwards, but we'll get there. But the business consequence, can Facebook continue to implement sanctions based on fact checks when they have now admitted that they are just protected opinion?
Yeah, because of Section 230. Because otherwise they could be sued for fraud, because clearly they are representing to people that these are factual claims being made, not that these are just somebody's editorial opinion. And they're taking action based on the assumption it's a factual claim being made, not an opinion. And now that they're admitting, oh, we've just been lying to everybody, like everything else we've been doing for the last decade. Normally, you could sue for consumer fraud in that case. Under Section 230, you can't. And so that's still the hurdle. Now, the way in which you possibly can is the case pending before the Ninth Circuit, brought by Bobby Kennedy and Children's Health Defense, concerning Facebook being an agent of the state as it concerns these issues, for which more evidence developed this week when Freedom of Information Act request showed that Anthony Fauci and the director of the National Institute for Health at the time were conspiring to go after people who are critical of their COVID policies or raised questions about what Critical Drinker would call the message.
Now,
and
before we get there, I just want to bring this on. You should have Stossel on sidebar. Robert, I will always courteously and graciously reach out publicly, but I will never shame anything or shame anyone for not accepting a public invitation. I don't even know if they're ever going to see it. I would love to have Stossel on. I would love to have Gina Carano on. If they don't respond or say no, no problem. I will not shame them for that. I would love to have Stossel on because he's got a very interesting history that I did not know of in terms of where his parents came from, his upbringing, and now his experience with the media that will turn on you at the drop of a hat when they no longer like what you have to say. So, yeah, tweet it out. I'd love to have Stossel on and Gina Carano. That would be on my wish list for 2022. What were you just saying, Robert? Now I just lost my thought.
So, yeah, I mean, their Facebook is still protected under Section 230 if they've been lying to everybody about fact-checking, really being just pure editorial opinions. But I don't think a court should accept that. I mean, the reality is the standard is not what Facebook thinks they're doing. The standard is whether any reasonable juror could interpret their statements as even inferring facts. That's it. Doesn't have to be a factual claim itself. It could be, could you even be inferring facts? To give an example, the Supreme Court said it's libel when somebody accused someone else of perjury. Clearly, at some level, that's an opinion that what they did was perjury. But they said opinion is not protected if it infers a false fact. That's what fact checks are. Fact checks when they're wrong and make an of a false factual claim. When you say your fact is false, that's a factual claim. That's not an opinion.
Oh, geez, I'm falling apart. Hold on. If anyone here clicks on someone said anyone here clicks on Viva speech. Yeah, that might be noise from upstairs. I'm going to put the earphones back on for a bit. It's obvious that the Facebook fact checks were BS when they started fact checking memes. But this is the thing. Who is going to look at a fact check and say, oh, I'm just listening to somebody's opinion? No, then it would be rebuttal. It would be counter argument. It would be response. A fact check is I like the chemical structure of an element would be a fact check. If someone says that, I can't even. It would be a fact check. It would not be a nuanced argument discussion on a very complex issue. But Robert,
again, all that matters is that it infer facts. So I think of it as legal pleadings. So if someone says that fact is false, that itself is a factual claim. That's not an opinion. That's a factual claim. And so because you're saying a fact is false, you're saying a fact is a hoax, you're saying a fact is untrue. That's factual by definition. I mean, we deal with this in the law all the time. You make factual averments. Somebody disputes those factual averments, claims those factual averments are not true, or allegations, or attestations, however you want to describe it in the legalized language or lingo. That's a factual statement. It's always been considered a factual statement, not an opinion. That's not opinion at all. So I find it ludicrous that it was only because the Delaware courts, which, by the way, the same Delaware court system, said that Fox could continue to face suit from Dominion because they decided to interpret everything Fox ever even allowed on air concerning Dominion to be factual statements, even when those statements sound a lot like opinion when it's coming from Tucker Carlson or other people. So they have completely contradictory opinions depending on the politics of the party.
And I believe this is either a fact or a satire. Jason made. I know what it is. Jason, good one. I want to get back to the chief that I just brought up because that was a very funny name, which you might have actually got me before I read it thoroughly. Won't bring it back up, but no, it is preposterous because it's just the weaponizing of reason. It's literally the Orwellian freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, and gosh darn it, I forget what the third one is.
War is peace.
War is peace. And by the way, fact checks are opinion. And so we're gonna deem fact checks to be opinion.
Fact checks are not factual.
No, I prefer my variation. Fact checks are opinion. When you say fact check, you meant opinion. When Tucker Carlson comes out with his rant of the week opinion piece, it's a fact. Sue him. It's just it's weaponizing language, but I guess it's always been this way. Orwell didn't make up the future; he was just recounting the past in the variation that
the Biden
existed.
administration is trying to convince people that their Head Start mandate is a performance standard.
Okay, I'm gonna
to give an example, the lunacy of language, the way they're stretching language to impossible places. That the federal contractor mandate is just supposed to be a procurement enhancement policy. I mean, this is ludicrous. And if the courts don't stop this ludicrous components, they'll start to discredit themselves as an institution.
But Robert, here's the thing. That's what I've been, and I don't want to black pill people. That's what I have been drawing white pill enthusiasm from what you've been saying for a while. Yes, they will discredit themselves. But what if the black pill one is big effing deal? Screw you. We've discredited ourselves, but we still hold the power of the prosecution, the judiciary, and the executive. So, hey, good. We've discredited ourselves, but you're a lowly hoi polloi citizen on the street. Suck it up because you got no choice. That's my black pill, Robert.
The problem is the fifth pillar of power that undergirds the four pillars of power is the perception of the other four pillars of power. And the moment that pillar of power goes away, the system collapses. You can't kill everybody. That's the problem, right? Robert, we don't yet live in a true robotic age where you can just start whacking everybody.
But Robert,
and if people start to not believe in you, your institutions, it's only a matter of time before they crumble and collapse. Yeah, but there's a reason why Trump got elected president, because people are increasingly doubtful and skeptical and critical of our system. And right now he's leading by double digits in a bunch of states so the system should wake up that they're about to get utterly crushed unless they come to some recognition and realization that they have to actually step up to the plate and do their duty and protect principle.